So exactly how do you measure yourself? I'll show you how. Coming up. Hey, Shawnelle here, bringing you weekly videos to help you get better and better with your fashion sewing. And be more creative too. So be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on a new video. Okay, measurements. Very important. How are you gonna know how to get the right pattern size if you don't actually know your true measurements? So in teaching sewing the past 12 years, I can say about 95% of my students don't know how to measure themselves. So that's a lot. I always say, okay, measure your hips, measure your bust, and they struggle with it. So I'm just gonna do a quick video here. My videos are never quick, but to show you the basics, okay? We don't have to get into all the crazy details because that's if you're pattern drafting and really adjusting stuff. But I have this is my little form that I use for my students. We go over measurements in our classes, and I'll have this available for you. Also, I have a download on my website, and I'll put a link below, and you can have that right there. So first I wanted to say pattern sizes right here. This pattern goes from 6 to 14. I happen to wear a 12 in the store, but I wear an 18 pattern. A 12 fits about that big. It's like a size 4. There's a whole thing called vanity sizing in the world going on, and all the retailers have made our sizes smaller in the tags. They're kind of fudging the numbers there to make us feel better. It's called vanity sizing. Patterns have not changed their measurements. So yeah, I don't like buying an 18 pattern when I wear a 12 in the stores, but it's just a number. So I'm going to read off what a 12 is. A hip on a size 12 is 36 inches. It's pretty small. I mean, that's model size small. That's those runway supermodels, about 35, 36 hips. I'm going to show you in the dress form too. The hip is not your hip bone. It's actually, if they called it butt, it would be so much easier. They just said, what's your butt size? People would probably measure accurately. I mean, it would really help. Anyway, I came across some old books. Oh my gosh, I came across a really old book. This book here, I think I stole this from a library. Actually, I didn't. I was in a pattern school back in the early 80s, a pattern design school, and this was there, and I think it's a library book, but I didn't really steal it. Okay, I don't know how I ended up with it, but I have it. 1970 sizing. 1970. This is actually, first copyright was in the 50s, but I think they updated it in 70s. So 1970. So like I said, I wear a size 18 pattern. Bust is 40, waist is 31, hip is 42, 1970. Then I have this book here, Pattern Fitting Alterations, 1992, size 18 is 40, bust, waist is 32, hips are 42. I think the 1970, the waist was 31. It's 1 inch smaller in the 1970. So bring us to 2021. This was probably 2020. We have size 18 pattern. We have 40 bust, 32 waist, 42 hip. Pattern sizing, this is the whole reason the vanity sizing hasn't changed. When they said Marilyn Monroe was a size 14, she was really wearing probably like a 6. She was probably like a 6'8" actually back then. So she wasn't like a 14. So, which is actually the average size woman now. So, what are you gonna do? So pattern sizing has not changed. These patterns are sticking to 1970. It's probably, I don't know what the 50s were, but hasn't changed. The patterns, the retailers have changed their sizes. So don't get swept up into all that. So when you go to buy a pattern, measure yourself actually, and then compare them to this part right here. Everybody ignores this. I mean, I've been teaching sewing for a while and nobody pays attention to this. And then when they do, they still go, my friend did this, we went shopping for patterns. She goes, she wears like a 4 or 6. She's like, I need a 4 or 6. I'm like, no, you don't. We just went over this. She's like, I go, you need a 14 pattern. She's like, I do. And I'm like, yes. So anyway, enough of that. So if people just get the right patterns and you start off on the right base, okay? That's all I'm trying to get to you. All right. So we're just going to go over. There's a bust measurement here. Some patterns have a high bust. I gotta tell you, I've been sewing and pattern drafting and design school, all that stuff. I might have used the high bust once. And a high bust is actually when you're going up over the bust. I think when they measure bras and all, you might get the high bust part right there. But so let's go over the bust part right here. So we're gonna go just across right here, like this girl is 41. Now you want to make sure, if you do it on the side, you want to make sure it's going across, sort of like, you know, how a bra should fit right here. So it's not scooping under, which actually might make you smaller. Yeah, she's about a ½ inch smaller there. But you're just going to go horizontal across there, and then not too tight. I'm also wearing a bra that you're going to wear, like that you usually wear, is also really important, because if you're not, things move around and you're not actually getting the right measurement. Your waist is, a lot of people, I mean, years ago when I first started teaching, we were wearing our pants low on our hips, and so I would say, where's your waist? And everybody would automatically go to their hip bone right here. And I'm like, no, the waist is actually like where you bend at. So a lot of people had that confused. So you just kind of bend. If you even tied a string around your waist, like a loose string, and wherever it rests, that's your waist. And it's usually kind of near your belly button. So now to measure your hip, on a lot of patterns, you're going to see where it says hip, right here, like this pattern here says hip, 9 inches below waist. This is what a lot of people get confused is, so the waist is here. You're going to go from the waist down to 9 inches, right about here. Actually, put a pin right there. So 9 inches. A lot of your hip bones are about here. And so if I measured that would be called the high hip. If I measured that, we're at about 38.5 inches. And then if I measure the 9 inches below, 9 inches below waist hip, which is your butt. So you can see butt. Does she have a butt? Some of my dress forms don't have butts. I have one that has like literally no butt. So we go right here, we're at 42. So the 42-inch hip versus a high hip of 38.5. Big difference. So when you're getting a pattern to go for a skirt and you have to measure your hip and you measure 38.5, that's a significant difference. So you got to make sure you measure it in the right place. So paying attention, it says 9 inches below. So basically just go around the fullest part of your hip, which is your butt. And sometimes, you know, some people are wider in the waist than they are the hip. So you would pick your pattern to go with the widest part of you, like that. So that is the hip part. So you can just kind of say butt, and then you'd be good. I have to bring that back up. Now, so we have a bust, waist, high hip, full hip. Bicep is like if you're working with sleeves and it's fitted sleeve, that's pretty important. You just measure around. Neck is so it's, I don't know if you can see that up there. I keep having to move it. Neck is, so you want to start on the 0 right there. I get that a lot too. You're going to go around here. It's like, where would the collar hit? So not a choker, but more like where would the collar hit right here. And this is like, you see this a lot on men's shirts. Like she is 16 inches right there. What else? Oh, I was going to say, so that this dress form is a 16, and she said 42-inch hip, but the 18 here, I don't think this dress form is even really correct, because it says 18, so that's good. But her waist was, I actually wanted to measure this back. The waist was she's 32. Yeah, it's more like a size 18 dress form. I don't know. Should be 18. Dress form's a little off. Anyway, what are you gonna do? But actually, if you have a dress form too, measure it and actually maybe write the measurements down here. I think, oh look, I did. It's in pencil, 32 right there. So sometimes you don't work on it for a while and then you forget. So then don't just go off of the, I'm not gonna tell you what brand this is. Anyway, the back, so that's this right here. This is a pretty important measurement, the number 7 right there. And that's, these right here are called arm size right here. And you gotta think like, where's the shoulder blade right there? So you're gonna go like, where would the sleeve start right here? So you're gonna go across the shoulder blade. So you're gonna measure from here to across all the way. So I'm at like at 14 3/8 right here, maybe 14 1/2 across there. I just helped a young lady with, she's a swimmer's body, and she was 16 1/2 here, and then smaller in the torso. So we took like a size 12 pattern, 14 pattern, and went into the 18 arm side part to really broaden her back part here. So that's how you use that adjustment. So if your sleeves are a little tight and stuff right there, it's because you're not checking it right there. So this one you might, or you pretty much really have to get somebody to measure you on that one. So you're just going to be going across right about where the shoulder blades are there. Then you have, so those are the widths of your measurements. Then you have your lengths. So that's your vertical. So you got your, well, shoulder length right here is, you're going to go up from the neck in here to the tip of where your shoulder would start. This girl's pretty broad here. It's 4 1/2 or 5 1/2. So you're going to go in here to where the collar would fit, right in there, to the edge, like where your sleeve would start, right about there. So I'm at 5, I'm the same size, 5 3/4. So it looks kind of, wow, okay. 5 3/4. And also, if you ever saw the grading of patterns, they always go out 1/8 of an inch on each shoulder seam, because we don't grow too much right here, not like we do in the torso part. So shoulder, and then center front to waist. I think I have this whole thing on in the frame here. Is right in the pit of your neck here, like where your collar would end, right there, to your waist. So that's where if you put a string around your waist and let it relax comfortably, you can actually really find out where your waist's at. So just go here to the middle of your waist, and she's 15 1/2. That's about average for most people, and that just kind of will tell you like where your, if you're petite in the torso or longer in the torso. I know when I was in design school, I was always an inch longer than the dress forms, so I knew when I would make a pattern that I would add an inch into the torso. So I would cut the pattern about here and add a little length. And also, this is called the apex, right in the center of your bust. So you could actually find where the center is. You could also do a shoulder seam. I don't think I have it on this part, on this form here, but shoulder seam to the apex is 10. And if you were like 9 or 8, then you would know you're petite in here, and you can actually petite your pattern here. And then also in the torso, because just because you're petite doesn't mean your arms are shorter or your legs are shorter. You're probably shorter in different parts of your body. So that's the center front to waist. Then you got back neck to waist. That's from usually where that big knot bone is right there, where the collar would hit, and just go down to the center of the waist. She's 17 1/2. So that tells you if you're, also if you have a dowager hump a little bit, you're actually going to go longer like that, versus if you're standing up straighter, you're actually going to have more fabric, a little bit shorter. So that just tells you the length. Then you got your arm length. And this right here, I just went from the shoulder to the wrist. That's how you measure women's. Men are actually measured from the center back to the shoulder part, then down to the elbow, then down to the wrist. That's why their arm length says 30, 32, 34. It's a lot longer all those directions. That's for men's You're actually going to measure men differently than women, so we're working on the women part. But length, that's, most people are like in the 21 zone, I think. So actually just measure from here to right about your like wrist bone, right here, like that. And that's like if it was just a long sleeve there. And then if you had a cuff, your usually your, like if you had a cuff on there, your sleeve part's a little bit fuller because the cuff traps it here, and then you have to have fabric moving in there. So you might find it's 1 or 2 inches longer, like that. You gotta think about how the fabric moves too, because you need length in the fabric or in the pattern, to help you move, right? Then you have waist to knee, and that is you go from your waist to the kneecap. Now this is what a lot of people do. They go, huh? Like that, to the top of the kneecap. And that literally shortens you several inches. So you don't want to go that way. So I actually, I could be like, I walk it down like this and get to the top of my kneecap. And then I just put my hand on it and I look right there. So actually I could go like this. And then, and you can actually put it in the knee or in the mirror too. And you go like that. And I'm at 23 right there. Also the floor, so you can actually go from, you can actually take the 0 tape or the, at the 1, put it on the floor, all right, like that, and then take it to your waist right there, and then I'm at 40 and a half from the floor to my waist. So that's one way of doing it. And also put waist to ankle. You can also put it right at the ankle and do it that way, or have somebody measure you. But so even like waist to floor, if you're looking down, even like if you're having a gown altered and you're standing there and you're looking down, somebody's pinning it for you. You actually move it forward, and then it actually gets shorter. And then you stand up, and it's shorter. So I have some stories about that. Anyway, those are your measurements. I also have a date in here. You might want to put the date on there because that will help do them fresh new once a year. So before COVID and after COVID, you might see some changes on there. So and also notice full hip, I even put 9 inches down right there. That's what it means. And then these lines will help you to find them right there. So measure yourself, then look at the patterns and get the correct pattern. All right. So if you find this helpful, give me a thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know in the comments below. And I will put this on my website for you to download. And I'll see you in the next sew bit.